Hey everybody, Matty here with Altcoin Buzz. Happy Thursday. Hope you're having a great one. In today's video, we are looking at the failure of central banks around the world as really just about every country braces for very significant upcoming supply chain and labor market disruptions. Cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, for whatever reason, seem to be breaking away and perhaps decoupling a little bit from these traditional markets. We're seeing that in the numbers today. We'll take a look at those topics as well as a couple of others. As always, if you enjoy this kind of content, make sure you're subscribed to Altcoin Buzz for all things Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and blockchain. Stay tuned to the end of this video as well for info on how you can win this week's prize of a CryptoTag Zeus starter kit. Okay, I don't want to sound premature here, but some out there in the Twitter sphere, such as Moon Overlord Inside Moon, are suggesting that Bitcoin is starting to trailblaze in its own direction here. All right, I'm ready to call it. Bitcoin has officially decoupled from traditional markets. I think it is far too early to make that kind of a statement. Clearly, others do as well, but here's the trend today on CoinMarketCap.com. We can see that the total market cap for crypto is up pretty significantly, just about $164 billion right now. Bitcoin up nearly 12% on the day, as are other projects. But Bitcoin pretty much leading the way with the exception of a couple here, Binance Coin and Tezos notably. Everything else up close to double-digit percentage points, but really Bitcoin, again, it's not the leader in the space, but it seems to be pulling the others up with it. You can see that Chainlink is also up very significantly, nearly 20%. Dash up 26% on the day. So we're definitely seeing some strong wins here across the board. Dominance reflects the fact that Bitcoin is leading the charge. Dominance today at 64.8%. As I record right now, Bitcoin is at $5,756, really on a day where we've seen poor performance in a lot of other markets, including the Dow Jones. As I record this, the Dow hasn't opened yet, but it's been several days now, several multi-thousand point plunges over the course of the last week. And despite the daily assurances of the coronavirus presidential task force, by the way, I'm getting the same thing in the form of daily addresses by my Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau here in Canada, markets do not seem to be responding with a lot of confidence. And so despite the fact that the Dow and other markets for that matter have continued to fall, it's notable and noteworthy that Bitcoin all of a sudden, for whatever reason, is spiking. And there are some different suggestions that would seem to indicate that, yes, perhaps at least, I wouldn't declare it a victory just yet. That would be very premature. But there is a little bit of a decoupling that seems to be happening, at least in its early stages right now. The context, of course, here, as explained on trustnodes.com, is that the world is potentially bracing for a Great Depression as the Federal Reserve and other central banks are printing money with wild abandon, and they seem to be quickly running out of ammunition. They seem to be gaining less and less traction with every action that they take. As you may have heard, a giveaway of $1,000 to every American, a giveaway of £25,000 to, quote, socially distanced businesses is greeted with another fall of about 7% at the level of the Dow Jones yesterday. So this was not greeted with a lot of confidence in the market. This plan, whether you want to call it UBI, Universal Basic Income, or some type of recovery stimulus package, a safety net, this is the kind of thing that's being proposed. I've heard quotes as high as $2,000 as far as what President Trump is at least considering to offer the American public, those that maybe have suffered in terms of their employment has been cut off, or maybe they're not able to recoup money for one reason or another. But whatever you want to call it, this plan has been suggested to put out maybe $1,000, maybe $2,000 for every working American. I believe the scale would be sliding such that if you are a person of means and maybe you don't need that additional income, then maybe you wouldn't receive it, and that would be built into the plan. But here's the thing, at the end of the day, it's kind of symbolic in my opinion that people have been stockpiling toilet paper as much as they have, because that's really what the currency is becoming. We're seeing it more and more. And for people that maybe aren't financially minded, or they don't have a sense of macroeconomics or fiscal policy, that's fine. It's excusable. Not everybody has to be living and breathing this stuff all the time. However, those that are kind of casually tuning in are starting to realize, like, well, hey, wait a second. You can print all the money you want. You can give me that $1,000, that $2,000. If our entire labor market collapses, if the supply chain collapses as a result of this, what good is that money going to do? Of course, we've seen this in other countries. Runaway inflation effects have occurred in countries like Venezuela, like Zimbabwe, and others. Of course, we also talked yesterday about the value of money, how that's anchored in the fact that the government must collect taxes to begin with, because at the end of the day, money is no longer backed, speaking in terms of the American dollar, currency is no longer backed by any kind of a standard, any kind of a gold standard as it was prior to 1971. But President Richard Nixon removed that gold standard and thereby really eroded a lot of the confidence in the dollar. More than anything now, you could argue that it's backed by petroleum, but the American dollar, as other currencies, is very much backed by the labor you put into it, and therefore that taxation is what lends credence and what lends value to it and makes the system function as a whole. So take away that labor market completely, take away the ability of both blue collar and white collar workers to show up to work or perhaps be productive to the extent that they would like to be, that currency is quickly going to be devalued at a rate that we've never before seen, and inflation is going to take over. Inflation has already occurred in countries like Venezuela. They've now shut down their banks amid this coronavirus panic. Of course, they were hit with a different kind of combination. They've been fighting with inflation for quite a while now. But the interesting result in Venezuela, according to Decrypt.co, is that Bitcoin trading has soared amid their most recent problems. Venezuela is under a nationwide quarantine to fight the spread of coronavirus, shutting down all banks. And at the same time, Bitcoin trading on P2P exchanges is on the rise. Again, going back to the numbers here, I don't necessarily expect this trend to be a breakaway pattern that is now going to be perpetually decoupled from the dollar, from gold, from other markets for the foreseeable future. You know, we could rise and fall together in tandem once again in the future, but it's the first day kind of amid all the panic and all the anxiety that we're collectively feeling, where we're seeing pretty much an inverse relationship between what's happening on Wall Street and what's happening in cryptocurrency. Again, Dow Jones and other markets fell yesterday 7, 8, maybe 9%, whereas Bitcoin has grown by just about 12% in that same span of time. So pretty much a mirror reversal in what's happening in the rest of more traditional spaces. Here on ccn.com, Dow Jones in free fall as Wall Street begs for stock market shutdown. There's now a discussion being had that Wall Street is going to be physically shut down, that trading is going to go virtual, it's going to be digital, but that's going to be the extent of what can be done. I have heard arguments made by many that the entire stock market should be shut down. There's more and more discussion. There's more and more description of what's happening now, and people are talking about it as really wartime footing, right? Donald Trump just yesterday, in fact, on Wednesday, described himself as more or less a wartime president, because these are the kinds of decisions that are being made. He's starting to invoke authorities that would otherwise only be relegated to wartime scenarios, and I'm not going to criticize him for that. I'll leave politics out of this as much as possible. I think there is a time and a place to invoke those kinds of measures. But the point is that people have been making this argument that, well, look, 9/11 was shut down, 9/11 shut down the stock markets and the financial markets for a certain period of time after the attack. Why not invoke those same kinds of measures now? And I think the response from the Trump administration and others has been that really we have to hold strong here and present a defense of some kind, because we're really in this for the long run. You have individuals, politicians such as Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, for example, who's talking about how, look, we're only just getting started here. And for any New Yorkers, stay safe. We understand that your state is being hit especially hard by the pandemic here. So Governor Cuomo, for example, talking about how we're really only going to see the peak of this in about 45 days. That's 6 weeks from now. There are contingency plans out there, unfortunately, for the next several months, 6 months. There's talk of this whole coronavirus being biphasic, meaning that you can contract the disease, the virus, you can recover, and you can contract it again. Again, this is a novel strain, so we don't have any kind of a herd immunity. Our immune systems are not at all used to this. And as you can expect, and as you've seen, as we've all seen, the markets are responding. I realize that I'm saying a lot here, but I suppose the point that I'm trying to make is potentially there's a very long road ahead of us. We may only be in the early stages of this real quarantine that we're all experiencing for the first time, that we're trying to navigate collectively. If we really are only at the beginning, maybe the second inning, as has been described, there is potentially a lot of economic upheaval and turmoil that is still awaiting us, unfortunately. And if that's the case, the central banks really are in a precarious situation because already we talked about it yesterday. They've already injected trillions of dollars into this system and people just aren't buying it. People just are not behind it with much confidence. It's not having much of an impact. So if already they're starting to slip, if already this is a problem and they're not able to get any sort of traction, what's going to happen in a week's time, in a month's time, in 6 months' time, in a year's time if this continues? And add to that the fact that labor markets and supply chains are going to be fiercely disrupted. That's going to exacerbate this entire problem substantially. Now, just to be clear, I'm not rooting for any of this to happen. I'm not somebody that's cheering on any kind of an economic collapse or financial doomsday. I'm really just as concerned as the next person here. So this is not something that I'm rooting for. Just want to make that clear. However, as an observer, I'm trying to report this objectively. I'm trying not to be too emotional in my analysis, but this is how I see it. Here on Cointelegraph.com, Congress proposal to give everyone $2,000 a month, which of course strengthens the case for Bitcoin. This is why we've always discussed it, guys. Despite the local peaks and troughs, despite the local highs and lows, Bitcoin really is a long-term idea. And we're really seeing history unfolding here. We've talked about how the halving is still coming up in May of this year, coming up a little bit too quickly, I think, for this space. It's not really going to be convenient. I don't think it's going to quite be the springboard or the catalyst that we expected in light of the pandemic and everything that's been happening. However, over the long term, I think this is really going to be an important stress test for Bitcoin and for all of cryptocurrency going forward. If you have a long-term horizon, a long-term perspective, I think you'll agree that in light of everything that we're seeing now, we're seeing how fragile this system is, how interconnected and vulnerable this system is. I think the case can certainly be made here that really Bitcoin in the long run is a good idea. More news here on trustnodes.com, which you can check out. Gold crashes as shops close. Bitcoin, of course, is still open. And finally, CryptoPotato.com, Bitcoin price analysis. Is this the day Bitcoin had been waiting for 11 years? Check that out if you're interested. I don't think we're there yet, but I think it's turning more and more heads. And it would really be something if we could show resilience in this time of economic chaos. If Bitcoin could be that savior kind of currency that could rise from the ashes, rather, very phoenix-like, it would be a good time to shine. Let's see what happens. Let me know your thoughts about this. I know I've been ranting for a while here, and apologies if it sounded kind of disjointed, but those are a lot of different thoughts that are just circulating through my head right now. Let us know what yours are in the comments below. That about wraps it up for today, everybody. Do be sure you're following us on all the regular social media channels and keep checking back into the website. It is altcoinbuzz.io. We'll try to keep you updated with all the latest there. Like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell to receive notifications if you liked today's video. Best of luck if you choose to invest on this Thursday. Have a great one, everybody. Don't forget about our giveaway this Saturday. We're giving another CryptoTag Zeus starter kit away to one lucky winner. You got to be subscribed to Altcoin Buzz to be eligible. You got to also like and comment on our videos. Have a great one, everybody. And as always, we hope to see you again soon in our next piece. Take care.